An NRL blockbuster postponed the school teacher that burst rugby league's bubble. Tonight, the Bulldogs and Roosters training when they should be playing. Aidan Tolman cleared his teammates' nervous wait for results. Footy fans to return to stadiums. Wedding parties are back, the restrictions ending in a fortnight. The Australian sentenced to death in China, Calm Gillespie's friends plead for his life. Drama in St Mary's, a movie gangster arrested over a wild police chase. Atlanta on edge, police shoot and kill a black man, riots return to the streets. The women accused of vandalising the Captain Cook statue in Hyde Park. And Hail Mary, the Dragons stun the Sharks to buy their embattled coach some more time.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. The rugby league blockbuster between the Roosters and the Bulldogs had to be scrapped just hours before kick-off because of a COVID-19 scare. Bankwest Stadium empty tonight, no fans, no players, the game rescheduled after a positive case involving a teacher at the school where Aidan Tolman's son attends. He's now been cleared, but the rest of the Bulldogs squad is awaiting results.
The Sydney Bulldogs were meant to be put to the test on the footy field today until a COVID test got in the way.
And now we've just got to get ready to play again tomorrow night.
Because of the full shutdown of the Laguna Street Public School, where a teacher has been found COVID positive. Bulldogs prop Aidan Tolman has a child at the school, a small risk, but the NRL wasn't taking any chances.
So I applaud any organisation that takes an overly cautious approach. That's what we need during this time.
Tolman has since been cleared of the virus, but other families at the school tested today are waiting to find out.
We have 3 kids at 3 different schools. Thomas and I will isolate until we get the results.
Go Giants!
As sports fans got good news.
Get all of us together again and we can make a bit more noise for sure.
A few hundred allowed into games now. From next month, outdoor venues with up to a 40,000 capacity will be allowed to fill up to a quarter of their seats.
We just see this as a first step in a progression to safely having bigger crowds.
Any games to survive, you've got to have people through the turnstiles and the quicker it happens, the better.
More people in restaurants and cafes too. The cap on numbers replaced by just the 4 square metre rule.
But if you're going somewhere to have dinner or to partake in other activity, it has to be seated.
A helping hand for churches, an immediate act of compassion, easing funeral restrictions.
It's important to be physically present during a funeral and to mourn properly. So it certainly has been a challenge for families to grieve properly.
From today, funerals will have no mourner limit as long as the 4 square metre rule applies. Weddings from July can have as many guests as a venue can hold under the 4 square metre rule, but no dance floor. If you want dancing, there's a 20 guest limit. And it's back to the movies. Cinemas also given the 4 square metre go-ahead next month.
It certainly does feel like Christmas in July with Santa's stocking full of tickets and invites.
Easing restrictions. It was baby steps, now more giant ones, but not everything is being reopened. Nightclubs and music festivals have been put on hold at least until August. As when each restriction is eased, a reminder, COVID is far from banished.
We're very pleased to be at this place, but we do so with enormous caution.
And let's go to Chris Marr. Now, Chris, a number of new COVID cases have been recorded in New South Wales.
Mark, there are 9 new COVID-19 cases. Of those, 8 are returned travellers from overseas in hotel quarantine. Now, the 9th, of course, is the female teacher from Laguna Street Public School. The community attached to that school is being urged to get tested if they're feeling unwell. The Premier has stressed that regardless of what has happened today, these do not affect the restrictions on 20 visitors to homes or in outdoor gatherings. Mark?
That is good news. Chris Marr, thank you. A convicted Australian drug smuggler is now relying on diplomatic efforts between Canberra and Beijing to save his life. Calm Gillespie, arrested almost 7 years ago, has only now been sentenced to death. Some legal observers say Australia's fraught relationship with China has played a part in the court's ruling.
Some knew Calm Gillespie
I never done it, Mr. Hasham.
for recurring roles in Seven's police drama Blue Heelers.
It was real big.
Others remember the online entrepreneur.
A network of wealth creators all around the world.
Few, though, had any clue why the divorced dad from Melbourne vanished years ago. Arrested at Guangzhou Airport in December 2013, accused of carrying 7.5 kilos of the drug ice. His name made public only now because a Chinese court has finally sentenced him to death.
This individual is receiving consular assistance, has appeal rights still available to them.
But
the prospects of appeal would be minuscule, perhaps even a 1% chance of success.
Professor Rothwell says Calm Gillespie's hope is diplomacy, right as diplomatic relations with China sink to new lows. Sniping over a global COVID inquiry and trade, some regard the Gillespie death sentence as another punch in the fight.
There may well have been some initiative by the Chinese government to try to see this verdict issued.
We shouldn't necessarily seek to draw any conclusions.
The Trade Minister admits he still cannot get his counterpart in Beijing to return phone calls.
That's very worrying, I think.
Any appeal would likely stall Calm Gillespie's execution, time he needs for the two countries to resume talking.
And Tim Lester joins me now from Canberra. Tim, the Prime Minister is set to deliver a major speech tomorrow.
Yes, Mark, this is a State of the Economy address due first thing tomorrow morning. Now, during it, the Prime Minister will name 15 major infrastructure projects worth tens of billions and at least one in every state of the Commonwealth for accelerated funding under the Commonwealth, never mind that the states have already put in some money. Now, the Prime Minister will acknowledge these have all been pre-announced, but he will argue that they are part of refiring the economy more quickly in the months ahead. Now, MPs are sitting here tomorrow for 4 days, but then, Mark, they rise and don't return to Parliament until August.
OK, Tim, thank you. We have breaking news now. 2 people have been rushed to hospital following a vicious dog attack in Cranebrook. Let's go live to Serena Andaloro, who's at Nepean Hospital for us. Serena, how are the victims doing?
Well, Mark, one of the victims, a male aged in his 40s, was actually mauled quite badly, suffered injuries to his arms, torso and legs, while a woman, also aged in her 40s, had bite marks to her wrists. We understand the dog actually belonged to the pair. It turned on its owners in the front yard of their home in Cranebrook around 4 p.m. It was actually still quite agitated when police and council workers arrived. It took 3 men to finally wrangle it back into a cage, Mark.
OK, Serena, thank you. A group of teenagers accused of a serious attack on a senior police officer were granted bail in court today. The boys spent the night behind bars, a magistrate describing their actions as disturbing.
An officer targeted by teens at Warriewood. This social media video of the assault, now police evidence.
No, what's your badge number?
The boys taunt the officer before knocking him to the ground, allegedly taking off with his phone.
What's your badge number? Go, mate.
3 of the boys apprentices, the other a high school student. Today facing a magistrate over multiple charges each, including resist, using offensive language, assault and affray. They must now adhere to a curfew, not use drugs or alcohol or contact each other. The 16-year-old student must also attend school. When granting the boys bail, the magistrate said it was very distressing to read such serious allegations against a young person who, before now, has only dealt very briefly with police. If further allegations like this are put against you, you need to understand you can remain in custody, she told them. A state parliament inquiry has now been launched into assaults against police.
A police officer leaves home and a health worker leaves home not knowing what the day will bring for them, and we have to respect that.
The 4 teenagers will face court again next week. Amber Laidler, 7 News.
Violence has erupted in the US city of Atlanta after police shot and killed a black man who stole a taser and then ran. Officers had been called there because he'd fallen asleep in his car at a drive-through. The city's police chief has now been sacked.
Outside a busy fast food restaurant, police in a scuffle on the ground. Rayshard Brooks breaks free and runs. Security vision from another angle shows the moment he points a stolen taser back at police. In a split second, they open fire with lethal force.
Both of your careers are definitely done because you just shot a man.
We counted 2 minutes and 16 seconds before they even checked his pulse. And people wonder why everyone's bad.
Police were called to the restaurant when Mr. Brooks was found sleeping in his car, blocking the drive-through.
I saw y'all talking to him for 20 minutes, dude. Unarmed, non-violent.
When he failed a sobriety test,
a struggle ensued between the parties.
From Atlanta's mayor today.
I do not believe that this was a justified use of deadly force.
Immediate action. The officer who fired the shot terminated. The police chief sacked too, just days after speaking about protests for George Floyd.
But you also need to make sure that we're not the ones escalating the situation.
Today,
it's a very, very tense scene that we're seeing in the aftermath of the police shooting.
It's not just a black thing. It's a fair and decent thing.
Mr. Brooks' death sparked protests in Atlanta, the site where he was killed, in flames.
Anger is clearly visible right there, where you see this Wendy's now torched.
Certainly with the way the environment is now, we have advised the agents to expedite the investigation.
The Brooks family lawyer saying he doesn't know what justice looks like anymore.
It's like a video game where you just think you shoot somebody and it's not an actual father or a human being. I'm just starting to lose faith.
In the United States, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
There was real-life drama on the streets of St Mary's last night when an actor who appeared in a movie called Cop's Enemy was arrested following a police chase. Officers say he crashed his car into a shop front, then ran. He was later found hiding under a house.
Scenes just like the movies. One-time actor AJ Nwama led away in handcuffs by police after allegedly taking officers on a high-speed chase through Adelaide Street, which ends as his lime green Mustang smashes into Zoe Theodore's shop.
The bricks are down, the glass has fallen.
Nwama plays a mafia member in the movie Cop's Enemy. Witnesses say he jumped dozens of fences trying to evade police, but was busted hiding underneath a woman's home.
I think they went through my gate. So I just looked through the window, I looked through the curtain, and then there was a lot of people out the front.
I chased him back, and then, basically all hell broke loose. The police have had choppers in the air and dogs.
The harsh reality for Nwama today is a long list of charges, including destruction of property, speeding and resisting arrest. It was also revealed in court that the Cop's Enemy actor has a long history of getting into trouble with the law. He's been denied bail but will get treatment for a broken collarbone he suffered during the crash. Tom Saker, 7 News.
Two women, one who works for a prominent Greens MP, have faced court charged with vandalising the Captain Cook Monument in Hyde Park. Police have increased patrols to protect the 140-year-old statue, now a target in a worldwide movement.
On the base of the Captain Cook Monument in Hyde Park, remnants of graffiti. Police allege symbols representing the Aboriginal flag were drawn beside the message, "Sovereignty never ceded and no pride in genocide." That same message was previously scrawled in 2017. Charmaine Morrison Mills and Jaran Shee were arrested near Hyde Park at 4 this morning, charged over the offence. Jaran is a part-time worker for Greens MP David Shoebridge. It's alleged the pair were found with black masks and spray paint.
There is a very, very, very small number of people in the community that are seeking to do this, and I ask them not to.
It comes after tense scenes on Friday night. Police forming a barrier around the Captain Cook statue during the Black Lives Matter protest. There have been a series of attacks on statues of public figures. In Victoria, the busts of former Prime Ministers John Howard and Tony Abbott were sprayed red, and around the world, historical monuments with links to slavery have been toppled and defaced.
People like Captain Cook and
Governor Lachlan Macquarie, we're an important part of the nation we've become.
We should learn from our history, not seek to airbrush it or destroy it.
The magistrate acknowledged that the pair was accused of making a political statement clearly in line with protests going on not only here but around the world. Despite the current climate, he did not believe the women would try it again, granting them both bail. The pair will return to court in July. Police patrols have been increased at Hyde Park. Miley Hogan, 7 News.
There have been more scenes of mayhem in London as far-right mobs bashed police and attacked Black Lives Matter demonstrators. The Prime Minister slammed their actions as racist thuggery, their aim of protecting statues quickly lost in a haze of alcohol and anger.
Under the guise of patriotism, some came to London spoiling for a fight. As protesters turned on police, cheering as this officer was kicked to the ground. Police were prepared for trouble as hundreds descended on Parliament Square claiming to want to protect the boarded-up statue of Sir Winston Churchill.
We're here to defend our country and say, leave them alone.
The mob included far-right activists, football hooligans and some concerned ex-servicemen with peaceful intentions.
We don't know trouble. Why don't we just come up here to make sure that these people do not desecrate these war memorials?
But there was trouble. Anger fuelled by alcohol. Police had hoped to keep this group away from Black Lives Matter protesters, but they met in the heart of London.
We weren't aggravating anybody, yeah? And then they've come out from all corners to attack us. And we held our ground.
It's quickly become a game of cat and mouse between police and protesters as officers rush to block off streets. And all of this is playing out in one of the most famous parts of this city. In normal times, it would be filled with tourists. Not right now. This is Trafalgar Square. It became a boxing ring. As the curfew came and went, the chaos spilled into Hyde Park, where people were picnicking, and around Waterloo Station. Prime Minister Boris Johnson called it racist thuggery. More than 100 people were arrested, others left injured. Amid the mayhem, one rival helped another. A single moment of humanity on another ugly weekend in the British capital. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
Sally Barry joins me now. Sal, how's the weather looking for the working week?
Mark, we have sunny skies ahead this week with a dry start expected, and it was certainly a picture-perfect finish to Sunday as the sun set across the city. Captured by the 7 News helicopter, we reached a top of 22 degrees along the harbour, those westerly winds keeping things fresh. While at Gladesville, we reached a top of 21.5 degrees there today. But as that sun set this afternoon, well, temperatures certainly quickly dropped. Right now it is 15 degrees along the coast, but it feels more like 11. It's currently sitting on 14 degrees at Penrith. Tonight the mercury will plummet because all that daytime heat will just quickly escape due to these cloud-free skies. Will drop to 5 degrees in Sydney's west, 4 degrees at Richmond. Cold nights and clear days will be the story for the start until around midweek when some wet weather will arrive, but I'll have full details about those showers ahead with Sydney's 7-day forecast a little later, Mark.
See you then, Sally. Thank you. Houses have collapsed and factories have been destroyed in a huge explosion. After the break, a frightening moment, disaster struck. The city's new bike lanes are installed, so why can't anyone use them for weeks? Why this walk has much of America and the President talking. A little later, the potion from a secret lab claims it could change the lives of thousands of Australians. And in sport, a West Tigers veteran makes a long-awaited return, but unfortunately, Russell Packer had a shocker. Welcome back. Some drivers heading into the city could face lengthy delays from tomorrow after a temporary bike lane was installed along a stretch of Pitt Street. Despite plastic barricades being set up, the lane will remain closed to drivers and riders for another 2 weeks. It's one of 6 bike lanes that are being rolled out across inner Sydney to help ease the number of people on public transport during COVID restrictions. A gas tanker has exploded with deadly and damaging force in China, killing at least 19 people. The impact destroyed buildings and left almost 200 hurt as the vehicle erupted on a highway.
First, it caught fire, then this. A truck carrying liquefied gas. It may as well have been dynamite. Dash cam on another vehicle shows the sheer force of the explosion. A massive chunk of the truck flying through the air before hurtling into a building. This video shows residents watching the fireball through their windows when it blew. The shockwave so powerful it didn't just blow out windows, it ripped houses and factories apart. What was left looked like a war zone. Cars burning, thick black smoke choking the air. The injured standing in the middle of it all, bewildered. More than 160 people were hurt. Here, a paramedic treats a child. Rescue workers spent hours searching for people trapped in the rubble of collapsed buildings. As the hours rolled into night, the death toll kept rising. An investigation is now underway. China has been trying to raise safety standards in gas and chemical industries after several deadly explosions in recent years. Angela Cox, 7 News.
Part of China's capital is back in virus lockdown tonight, officials declaring they're in wartime mode after discovering a new cluster of coronavirus cases around a large local food market. After boasting it was emerging from the pandemic, there are now serious fears of a second wave. More than 10,000 people work at the market, which provides 90% of Beijing's fruit and vegetables. An incredible moment in Chicago as a dozen neighbours scramble to right a flipped family car with a young child still trapped inside.
I was scared. My legs were shaking so bad. It was just fear. I was scared for them.
Moments earlier, the SUV had been hit by a van. Its driver had run a red light, then taken off. Police say everyone involved is okay. US President Donald Trump has addressed the country's top military cadets in the middle of a deepening rift with his own defence chiefs. Days after threatening to deploy troops to quell domestic unrest, he vowed to end the era of endless wars abroad.
It is not the duty of U.S. troops to solve ancient conflicts in faraway lands that many people have never even heard of. We are not the policemen of the world.
But waking up to his 74th birthday, the president's now facing health questions over this moment as he left the stage. He tweeted the ramp was steep and slippery, claiming he ran the last 3 metres, calling it momentum. There's been an alarming drop in the number of people being tested for cancer after the break. The mother who's proved prevention is better than cure. The pet insurance dogfight over a bungled operation. An online concert like no other as the Wiggles debut an important song. And scale back but smiling how the Queen's birthday celebration went ahead as the royals begin to emerge from lockdown. Welcome back. A 17-year-old pilot and his 74-year-old grandfather owe their lives to several gum trees which cushioned the impact of a light plane crash in country Victoria. It's believed the Zenith Zodiac's engine stalled.
I sort of seen a plane and looked up and I thought, it looks like smoke coming out. And then, sure enough it was, and a couple of seconds later, a big bang.
The older man was injured when he was getting out of the wreck, falling several metres to the ground. The number of people having early detection scans for cancer has taken a dramatic hit during this pandemic. Experts are concerned that complacency will lead to a spike in those being diagnosed with late-stage cancer in the coming months.
Precious time 34-year-old Kirby Lane was determined to seize.
I already knew that I had a predisposition that's very high for breast and ovarian cancer.
So she decided to pay privately for an operation to remove her ovaries, afraid the health system would be thrown into coronavirus chaos.
We didn't want to wait until the coronavirus pandemic was over.
Many haven't been so proactive. Cancer screening numbers have crashed during COVID-19, too many putting off important health care.
There can't not be consequences, and those consequences are going to be around 45,000 people currently walking around the country who potentially don't know that they have cancer.
Cervical cancer screening tests in April were down 71%. Tissue testing dropped by 56%, while blood tests for prostate cancer were down 58%, and fewer tests too in May.
2021 will be the year of missed opportunities for early diagnoses of cancer.
Every minute matters in the fight.
A matter of weeks or months can mean a progression of cancers, which makes them harder to treat.
Doctors and pathologists now calling for testing to ramp up past the normal rate to make up for the lost months and ensure preventable cancer can't continue to gain strength.
It was really important that I made sure and did everything in my power to make sure that I am still around for our two kids.
Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
A heartbroken dog owner is now in a bit of fight over his puppy's broken leg bungle. 9-month-old Money had the wrong leg amputated by a vet. Now the insurance company's offer has left his owner fuming.
A devoted dog owner, devastated by a surgical bungle.
Immediate reaction was rage.
Steve Scarlett took Money to a vet with a broken leg in April. Her right leg was supposed to be amputated, but the left one was cut off by mistake.
Just hoping I can get some money together for a prosthetic leg for her.
He's been told that could cost around $60,000. Money's injured leg has been pinned, with the vet apologising and waiving costs. Steve's struggle is now with Guild Insurance, who offered a $5,000 settlement.
Oh, it's an insult.
The company telling him, while this might sound harsh, legally you are only entitled to the reasonable costs of Money's treatment and or the cost of purchasing a replacement dog.
These are family pets, they're not commodities, they're not just a viable and sellable thing.
Guild Insurance told 7 News Steve never asked them for $60,000, instead demanding a 7-figure settlement that, if not paid, would result in him pursuing media coverage and court proceedings.
I mean, she's my mate, I'm not going to roll over on my mate.
Carissa Kemp, 7 News.
A scaled-down celebration has gone ahead at Windsor Castle, marking the Queen's 94th birthday. For only the second time in her 68-year reign, the traditional Trooping the Colour was cancelled, replaced this year by a much smaller ceremony.
On the grounds of Windsor Castle, the Queen's first public engagement since the pandemic began. But this wasn't the annual parade that had been planned. Trooping the Colour, a birthday tradition, heavily scaled back. It's only been cancelled once before, 1955, because of a strike. This is what it usually looks like, the whole family on the palace balcony, flyovers and public en masse. This year, they were outside the walls.
I was hoping to get a glimpse of the parade, but I sadly don't think we're going to do that. But it's nice to be here and listen to the music.
Inside, a socially distanced royal salute from the Welsh Guards.
It's been quite a challenge thinking about social distancing and what we can achieve.
Queen Elizabeth has no plans to leave Windsor Castle, but there is royal movement. Charles and Camilla are relocating from Scotland ahead of a face-to-face engagement this week, their first since the virus outbreak. Signs the royal lockdown is coming to an end, though Her Majesty appeared to have enjoyed a slightly quieter celebration. Emma Dallymore, 7 News.
The Wiggles have performed a concert at the Opera House for an online audience. Emma, Lachlan, Simon and Anthony took to the stage for the gig called From Our House to Yours this afternoon. They had lessons for everyone about social distancing.
Social distancing, staying home to help the world.
It's the first Wiggles performance since the pandemic began. Our Olympic hopefuls have been given a boost ahead of next year's rescheduled games. After the break, the $50 million in funding and how it will be spent. Delivery bonus, the impact of home-delivered meals on menopause. A Sydney creek has turned purple. What's behind the colourful change?
Soon in sport, Ricky Stewart's Raiders help him celebrate the big 400 in style.
And I'll tell you if the sunny weather will stick around with Sydney's 7-day forecast soon.
Fuel prices have risen across Sydney. The average now is $1.27.6 a litre, but we found regular unleaded for as little as $1.5.8 in Randwick and $1.5.9 in Liverpool. Prince Andrew has reportedly admitted for the first time that the BBC interview about his relationship with billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein is a source of regret. It was panned as a train wreck and led to his ousting as a senior royal, but the Duke says failing to apologise to Epstein's victims was the error. The Sunday Times suggests Andrew will not cooperate with a US investigation into Epstein unless he's offered an olive branch. SpaceX has notched up another successful and spectacular launch, lifting off in Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9 rocket carried 58 internet-beaming satellites into orbit before pulling off a landing at sea. A time-lapse photo shows the stunning rainbow streak it left behind. SpaceX has future plans to put 12,000 small satellites into space. Some of Australia's Olympic hopefuls have only just returned to training, and today they got another boost, an extra $25 million funding commitment from the federal government. The money will help pay the bills, including keeping high-performance coaches and staff. The AOC welcomed the announcement, saying it provides certainty to athletes all the way up to the Commonwealth Games in 2022. Home-delivered meals are booming during the pandemic, but they're also bringing some unexpected health benefits. Many customers are reporting welcome changes, including women battling menopause.
When psychologist Veronica Knox turned 50, she began piling on the kilos, and the excess weight wouldn't budge.
It was insidious, really. It was, I think I have a photo here of my family in 2017.
The mother of two was also struggling with menopause symptoms, including lethargy, sleeplessness and hot flushes.
It started from the feet and just worked its way up.
Veronica says home-delivered, portion-controlled meals helped her lose 16 kilos, and that's not all.
It was around the 10 kilo mark. I noticed I was sleeping better. The hot flushes weren't happening.
Losing weight, if you are overweight, will certainly help with the hot flushes because you've got less body fat around you.
Those who have stacked on kilos during lockdown are being urged to choose home-delivered foods carefully.
No doubt with menopause, our metabolism does slow down. So we do need to make adjustments.
Menopausal women are advised to eat healthy diets to help curb symptoms. They should also reduce their intake of caffeine, alcohol and spicy foods.
There is some evidence to suggest that coffee might exacerbate those symptoms, so probably 1 cup a day.
Feeling fabulous. I'm closer to 60 than 50, and I feel 50 again. I feel like I've got my youth and vitality back.
Jackie Quist, 7 News.
Claims that just 3 drops can alleviate hundreds of painful conditions. It's being hailed as a miracle cure, and it's made right here in Australia. The patient who says it's changed her life, plus doctor's advice. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News. An investigation is underway into a mysterious purple waterway in Western Sydney. Duck River, which flows alongside the Auburn Botanic Gardens, turned a bright shade late last week. But today it's back to its normal colour. The local council and environmental inspectors will continue trying to uncover what happened and if there could be any long-term damage to the local area. Now, Mel is here with Sport, and Mel, finally, some relief for the Dragons.
Yes, Virgo, they are off the mark with their first win of the season in a tense clash with fierce rivals Cronulla. Highlights coming up. Plus, in the AFL, a bad day for both Sydney siders as the Kangaroos and Bombers fly in, spring upsets and fly out. And figure this one out, the selfie-seeking pitch invader in the apparently crowdless football stadium. Welcome back. Well, after a week from hell, Paul McGregor and the Dragons' prayers were answered today. $1 million playmaker Ben Hunt was benched and the Dragons claimed their first win of the season at last. Pressure will now transfer to Cronulla coach John Morris.
An early start due to the Bulldogs' COVID scare. Both sides found the bright side.
Now they're actually excited by it. We get to come out here to sunny Campbelltown and play an afternoon game.
And Paul McGregor's reshuffle worked straight away.
Dufty! Matt Dufty is over.
but it was disallowed for obstruction, and a reborn Josh Dugan added insult to his old team.
Dugan. Harani!
Just when it seemed like the Dragons were getting nowhere, they'd passed 3 hours without a try.
Ravalawa went underneath, and that surely breaks the drought.
The true believers could rejoice, but one try couldn't solve all of Mary's problems, and the Sharks took the lead again.
Kennedy chimes in, and Katoa is over.
James Graham added fire. Dufty, the on-again, off-again fullback, the strike they need.
Dufty, dynamic! He's a game changer.
And Ben Hunt's at his best at hooker. 18-10, it was all coming together at last. Still, this was going to be a long second half for a winless, desperate team, almost throwing it away.
He was trying to pass that football.
Yeah. But the tactical changes kept working.
But McInnes off a Ben Hunt pass.
At 24-10, it wasn't over yet.
Nice play. Graham's through.
Corey Norman was reported for tripping, but the Dragons just held on. The board backed the coach, now the players have too, and the Dragons joined their neighbours at 1 from 5.
It's always good to win. All we were after this week was improvement. 1 week at a time, Brent. 1 week at a time.
Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
Well, a nasty eye injury didn't stop Jack Whiten from guiding the Raiders past the stubborn West Tigers in Campbelltown last night. Whiten took a heavy knock to the face while tackling Joey Leilua, but recovered to score a crucial second-half try. Canberra came from behind to win 14 points to 6 in Ricky Stewart's 400th game as an NRL coach. Just the 8th person to reach the milestone, Stewart celebrated with a cold one in the sheds at full-time.
That was a big win, considering, you're on the bus for 3 hours, very valuable when you've got to travel like that. And we're travelling a lot. We're on the road every week.
Russell Packer faces a 3-game ban for a high tackle, and the Storm inflicted the Knights' first loss of the season in Gosford. A contentious late penalty against David Clemmer for tackling Dale Finucane without the ball helps Melbourne seal the 26-12 victory. Well, Greater Western Sydney's reputation as a genuine AFL premiership contender took a hit this afternoon. The Giants were stunned at home by North Melbourne, while the Swans went down to Essendon in a thriller at the SCG.
It's always fierce between the Swans and the Bombers, even in a largely empty stadium. After falling 20 points behind, a scuffle seemed to spark the Swannies into action. They kicked the next 3 goals to close the gap to 6 points at half-time.
Papley outside of the boot, back to 1 goal.
Some magic from former Lion Lewis Taylor kept the Lions within 8 at the final change.
What a miracle goal!
2 quick goals cut the margin to just a point with 2 minutes to play, but Essendon clung on. The Swans beaten by 7 and facing 2 more months without their injured superstar.
It's going to take a lot of hard work, but as I've said before, I'm willing to put in the work to make sure that I get back out there.
For the 350 fans allowed into Giants Stadium, it was edge-of-your-seat stuff against the North Melbourne side scrapping for every point.
Play on, and Kelly couldn't, but Ward could. That's a goal.
Callan Ward goaled in his return from injury as the Giants skipped 11 points clear in the third term before the men in blue and white roared back.
What a strike this would be from Pittard.
The Kangas booted 9 of the last 12 goals to hand last year's grand finalists an early reality check.
We just did not roll our sleeves up and get down and get dirty for long enough.
Nick Markham, 7 News.
Well, it's been a weekend of celebrations across the ditch because New Zealand is COVID-free and they could all go to the rugby again. 43,000 fans turned up at Eden Park today, where the Blues hosted the Hurricanes.
Darren Coles scores! Oh, what a response from the Hurricanes!
All Blacks champion Beauden Barrett had the last laugh on his old teammates as the Blues won 30-20, even with the great Dan Carter as water boy. With all restrictions lifted, the Stars and fans could mingle at full time. Australia's Super Rugby teams don't resume until July 3. Well, a strange sporting year got even weirder in Spain this morning. Barcelona's clash with Mallorca was delayed by a selfie-seeking pitch invader, despite the match being played behind closed doors. Wearing a Lionel Messi Argentina shirt, the intruder was quickly corralled by security. Messi later sealed a 4-0 win for Barca.
Look to finish with a flourish here, and Leo Messi onto his right foot, and there he does finish with a flourish.
In Germany, Erling Haaland's stoppage-time header got Borussia Dortmund home against Dusseldorf. Manager Lucien Favre injured his calf in the celebrations. Ouch. An all-star cast is chasing the PGA Tour's first title out of lockdown in the calming quiet of the first of 5 spectator-free tournaments. Just 3 shots separate 14 players at the Charles Schwab Challenge. They include a resurgent Jordan Spieth, but American whiz Xander Schauffele edged 1 shot clear at 13 under.
Oh, beautiful. Just one it left of the flag.
Cronulla's 2-time Australian Open champion Matt Jones is 8 back, holding onto his long hair and ISO beard. Maybe for good luck. Hopefully it brings him some good luck.
That almost felt like a normal sporting Sunday.
It did. It wasn't bad, was it?
Very exciting.
Noise.
Thanks, Mel.
Thanks.
It's been called a miracle potion, touted as a cure for more than 100 conditions, including migraines. Patients claim just a few drops a day of the Australian-made product can stop pain in its tracks.
To get inside the grow house creating magical cures, we need to be blindfolded. It's top secret. The location must remain unknown. A new expansion means this will soon be Australia's biggest indoor cannabis crop. The green grows under 24/7 surveillance to help people like Rachel. The 44-year-old has suffered migraines since she was a teenager.
Pain-free. Not one headache, not one migraine.
The cannabis plants become magical potions inside this factory that operates under the strictest controls on the planet. This is ready to be prescribed by a doctor.
This is what you get. You get relief. You get relief. And you get the life you need.
It's not a cheap process. The smallest of vials cost hundreds of dollars.
It's important to make sure that it's a quality product that's safe for consumption.
Thousands of people from around Australia and the world are eventually set to benefit from this little bottle of oil. The product is approved to treat more than 100 conditions, from epilepsy to PTSD, and some swear it's changed their lives.
But the oil isn't suitable for everyone.
The fact that it's green does not make it healthy. It means there's money.
We certainly encourage patients to talk to their GP. It's a simple first step to see if this is a product that would work for them.
Emily Baker, 7 News.
Sally's back now. And Sal, will the sunshine stick around for the start of the working week?
Mark, we've got clear skies ahead right now at 16 in the city, 13 in our west. Your full forecast is next.
Getting big retailers to bid for
so
your business.
Close.
Getting Aussie consumers bargains better than online prices. Only on 7 News, 6 o'clock.
Tonight, 7 News headlines. Bulldogs players tested for coronavirus today. Their match against the Roosters postponed after a COVID-19 scare involving Aidan Tolman. Fans will return to stadiums from July the 1st. Caps on wedding numbers lifted as well in the latest raft of changes to restrictions. Atlanta in the US is a city on edge tonight after a black man was shot dead by 2 police officers. And 2 women have been charged with vandalising a monument to Captain Cook in Hyde Park. One of them works for Greens MP David Shoebridge. Now, the latest on Sydney's weather, here's Sally.
Thanks, Mark. Well, we saw a dry and sunny day across the city after a small dose of showers to start things off. Today we reached a top of 21.8 degrees after a low of 14 degrees in the city with just under 10 millimetres in the gauges. Most of that wet weather, though, did dry up just before 9 a.m. We picked up generally across the suburbs around 5 to 10 millimetres for most, tops of 21 degrees at Canterbury and 21.5 at Homebush. On the satellite, we have fairly clear skies across most of the state tonight thanks to a high pressure system. That means we're in for a cool night. There also is just that trough crossing the northeast of New South Wales. That's bringing some rain and storms before a dry wind change into tomorrow. Brisk westerly winds, though, in between cold fronts will also bring a little bit of patchy rain into tomorrow and hopefully a touch of snow across the high peaks of the ski resorts. Around the capital cities for tomorrow, partly cloudy is the story for Brisbane, 25 degrees there. A little bit cloudy into Canberra, 14 as well. Some showers are possible in Melbourne, heading for tops of 18 degrees, while it will be wet at times in Adelaide, 16 the top tomorrow. Zooming in on New South Wales, damaging winds over 90 kilometres an hour are possible across the ski resorts. The good news is temperatures will drop below zero, as you can see at Thredbo, -1, and that will help trigger some snow. On the northern rivers, there will also be a bit of morning fog at Lismore, some showers expected across Byron Bay as well. Also a bit of morning fog at Port Macquarie into tomorrow, then tops of 20 degrees there, and a few morning frosts for Mudgee. A fresh start to the day tomorrow with temperatures tonight plummeting under those clear skies. Just 4 degrees for Richmond, 5 degrees at Camden, Campbelltown and Penrith. The good news is once the sun comes out, things will warm up. Tops of 20 degrees expected for most suburbs. A little bit warmer at Bankstown, 21 there. On the water, westerly winds. The swell will just sit around 1.5 metres for our Monday, dropping to 9 degrees tonight in the city. Tops of 20 tomorrow. Plenty of sunshine on the way. Now let's look ahead. Sunny skies are the story on Tuesday, 21 degrees. A little bit of morning fog on Wednesday in the western suburbs, then some morning showers. They'll dry up pretty quickly though. Cloudy skies are expected on Thursday with tops of 18 degrees. And then it looks like as we head towards the weekend, things will fine up, although we might just see a light shower or two on Sunday. But the next couple of days are looking beautiful, Mark.
Looking pretty good. Good on you, Sally. Thank you. That is 7 News for this Sunday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening. I'm Mark Ferguson from all the team. I hope you have a great night.